Hey, I'm Stephanie, and I want to tell you about the most precious lip gloss I ever owned. My mom picked it out for me at a department store. It was high-end, the kind of thing I never would have splurged on for myself back then, and I treated it like it was liquid gold, rationing every swipe. And here's the thing, that made me feel more beautiful and confident than any luxury lipstick I've bought for myself since. And that realization is completely rewiring the way I think about having enough. For a long time, I lived what might now be considered a minimalist lifestyle, not because I wanted to declutter or find inner peace or because it aligned with my values, but because I was broke. I was a touring musician just starting out. Every cent went towards food, rent, or a train to the next show. My clothes didn't fit so well, I only owned one jacket, and my entire makeup routine fit into one tiny sandwich bag. It was just a few essentials, and I didn't buy them. They were a gift from my mom, a little stage kit that she packed for me before I moved out. I had never really worn makeup before, but she knew I would be performing, and she wanted me to have everything that I needed to look like I belonged. I wore that makeup like a uniform, like a crossing guard wears a vest to be visible. I wore makeup so that I wouldn't disappear on stage, just enough to define my face under the lights. So brows, lashes, some bronzer, some liners, and one tube of lip gloss that I rationed like it was made of gold. And every time I sat down at one of those backstage mirrors with those glowing vanity bulbs and swiped on that lip gloss, I felt like someone. I wasn't rich, I wasn't fancy, but I felt visible, legitimate, real. That lip gloss never changed my life, but in those brief moments, it helped me feel like I belonged. That little makeup baggie got me through a lot. It was never about beauty for beauty's sake, it was more about being ready and visible and enough to go out on stage and do my job. And for a while, I always thought that scraping by sort of life was supposed to be something I would want to leave behind. So imagine my surprise when a few years later, everyone else started doing it on purpose. Minimalism was trending, with matching towels and marble trays holding $100 face oils, and I just remember thinking, are they mocking me? Or did someone just slap a rich filter on my broke era and call it minimalism? And I mean, there's nothing wrong with loving that aesthetic. In fact, I myself really like it, but it just felt very disconnected from my own experience. Suddenly, everyone was decluttering, and they had capsule wardrobes and empty white walls and fancy hand soaps in amber bottles. Minimalism became this beige and linen fantasy that was clean and curated and quiet. And at first, I didn't think it had anything to do with me because it didn't look anything like the life I had lived. But I did kind of recognize it in the sparse wardrobe and the bare walls and even some of the values. It felt familiar, but almost like someone was holding up a circus mirror to my old life because it did look the same, just different, distorted, because I hadn't been a minimalist. I wasn't even trying, but apparently I had lived it just without the mood lighting. But now this lifestyle was being sold back to me as peace. But then I started listening to the language, sayings like peace is simplicity. And that's when it hit me, not the difference, but the disconnect. Because I had not been at peace. I was not calm, I was not curated, I was not joyfully detached. I was tired, I was anxious. I was standing in the clearance section of an H&M seriously wondering if I could mend socks with dental floss. And now I was seeing other people boldly living with less, beautifully, intentionally, with mood lighting and matching towels, and I thought, am I even doing this wrong? And other people noticed it too. I remember a couple of audience members approaching me after shows very upset. One gave me a very serious talking to about how I should put more effort into my appearance as a performer. And I just wanted to say, this might not look like a lot of effort, but it cost me everything I had to get here. Or another woman, I'm not making this up, accused me of trying to seduce her husband because my shirt kept falling off of my shoulder. And I wanted to tell her, lady, my shirt is not suggestive, it is exhausted. But instead, I just smiled and offered some merch. Walking away from conversations like that, I would have a knot in my stomach. Not just embarrassment, but also this deep fear that maybe they were right. Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. Maybe I didn't belong on that stage. And the worst thing was that part of me started to believe that having less meant I was less professional, less worthy, less legitimate as an artist, or maybe even as a person. They didn't see someone who was trying, but I was. I was doing everything I could. The shirt didn't fit so well, but it was washed and pressed. The makeup wasn't dramatic, but it was functional. Backstage, whenever I swiped that lip gloss on under those vanity lights, I felt visible and legitimate and like I belonged there. But it only took me so far, especially after discussions like that. I would feel small and scrappy and like I just didn't measure up. So when I finally had a little breathing room, more money and freedom, I swung hard in the other direction. I didn't just buy makeup or clothing. I bought validation. Every lipstick was proof that I could afford it now. Every top was evidence that I was no longer the girl with the falling off shoulder shirt. I was trying to buy my way out of feeling small, but what I actually did was buy my way into a different kind of prison. I bought too much. I used beauty like it could fill some sort of gap. I told myself that I was catching up, but I think what I was really trying to do was compensate for all those years of not enough. And that didn't work either. Eventually, I slowed down because having too much felt just as uncomfortable as having too little. Back then, I had felt like I wasn't enough. Now, I was feeling like I wasn't being wise enough. The clutter didn't just take up space, it took mental energy. I'd stand in front of my overflowing vanity, paralyzed by choice, missing the clarity I'd had when I only owned one lip gloss. I realized I wasn't looking for more or less. I was looking for peace. And peace, as it turns out, isn't about the amount you own. It's about the amount of mental space that you have left when it comes to stuff. If you have too little, then your brain is constantly worrying about scarcity. But if you have too much, our brains don't know how to handle that either. And while it looked like I had finally gotten what I wanted, it didn't feel like peace. So now I'm trying to learn what enough actually means. Not the moral version, not the minimalist version, my version. The one where I have room to play, but also space to breathe, where I can enjoy my beautiful things without drowning in them, and where I'm not trying to prove anything, I'm just trying to live well. And that's when it clicked. I hadn't failed at minimalism because I never tried it. I never had a choice in the matter. And when I finally did, I way overdid it in the other direction because I finally could. It was the first time I had a choice and I thought anything other than nothing is good. And it's okay that things didn't go as planned because that's how we learn. The real magic happened when I realized I can still use the tools I picked up back in my scrappy days just from a place of trust now. So I still make wish lists and I still budget, but I've discovered some new tools too. For example, now I use the container concept to physically limit the amount of things that I can buy. And I also found a favorite question, and that is, if I buy this new thing, will it mean that I'll have less time to enjoy what I already have? That's when I started trying to find something else, not minimalism, not maximalism, but something in between. And I started calling it the Adagio Mindset after the musical term for slow, because that's what it's about, slowing down. Adagio isn't a prettier version of minimalism. In fact, it's not even about less at all. A slow song isn't any less musical than a fast one. It just gives you more time to enjoy each note. So it's about not rushing. It's about taking the time to figure out what really brings us the most joy, and then taking the time to actually use and enjoy those things. It's about intentional indulgence. I call it Adagio because the musical term means slow and with feeling. And maybe that's what I wish someone had told me back then, that if life feels pared down and heavy and less than, maybe it's not because you're failing. Maybe it's because you're in a part of life where the tempo's slowing down and you can actually hear what matters. My early starving artist days were really hard, but I would go back and do it all again because that period of my life gave me so much context and taught me so much about who I am, who I want to be, and what really matters to me. If you're living with less right now, not by choice, but by necessity, I see you. I've been there. And what I wish someone had told me back then was, you're not behind, you're not doing it wrong. You're learning things that will serve you well. And when that pendulum starts to swing and you go a little bit too far in the other direction, that's okay too. I think it's part of the learning process. The pendulum is a natural thing, but it does slow down at some point. And when it does, you get to choose what sticks. Next time, I'll share what happened when I chose minimalist living on purpose and why it didn't go as expected. So make sure to subscribe if you want to hear that story. Thanks for hanging out. If this reminded you of a past version of yourself, or maybe the season you're currently in, I would love to hear your story in the comments. And if you want to keep chatting, feel free to check out this video here. A huge thanks goes out to all of my patrons and channel members, including my Adagio angels, for supporting this content. And I hope we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.